Hi. In today's lesson, we will be discussing and explaining the second reading strategy, which is scanning. But before we start, we should quickly review what we had in the previous lesson, which was about skimming, and answer the questions that were given to you at the end of that lesson. So to start summarizing what we did formally, we say that our first lesson last time was about finding the main ideas and the pattern of organization in a reading passage by using skimming. This means by reading certain parts from the passage, represented by the title, the first and the last sentences of paragraph 1, the introduction, then the first sentence of each middle paragraph, and the first and the last sentences of the last paragraph, the conclusion. 3 questions were given to you at the end of the lesson. The first question was, how are the types of stress ordered in the passage? I think this question was not difficult to answer since the organization of the passage is very clear. So if we notice the types of stress, they are ordered as positive, tolerable, and toxic. This means that their order goes from the simplest form, which is useful, positive stress, to the most complicated form, which is more likely to be harmful. Or we can also classify them from the best type to the worst one. Therefore, there is a logical order or sequence of these types of stress. The second question was about the main point raised in the conclusion. The conclusion starts by emphasizing the lower possibility of the beneficial effects and the higher possibility of the negative effects when stress is prolonged and intense or toxic. So the main point raised is the possible short and long-term negative health effects of prolonged stress, and these effects are highlighted and exemplified. Examples on these effects, if you notice, are stated as it can disrupt early brain development, compromise functioning of the nervous and immune systems, and lead to health problems including alcoholism, depression, eating disorders, etc. Finally, the third question, which will lead us today to start the second reading strategy, scanning, is give an example of a physiological change that may result from positive stress. This question asks about a specific detail, which is a physiological change. We are possibly unable to answer it through skimming because it is not a main idea. So, what do we have to do in order to answer this question? The answer is we have to scan. Then, what is scanning? When to scan and how to scan? We will answer these questions first to understand what scanning is, and then we will be back to the third question to answer through scanning. First, scanning is a kind of rapid or fast reading in search of specific details like a date, name, certain phrase, number, symbol, formula, or other types of important details throughout the reading passage. Scanning is a skill that we practice in our daily lives. For example, we scan when we look up a word in a dictionary, when we try to find a name or a number in a list of names or numbers, when we look at a table of contents to find a certain topic, when we want a definition of a term from a glossary, when we want to locate a topic in a book from its index, among many others. Hence, the practice of scanning seems familiar to us. We do it most of the times. What's new here is how we use this skill in answering certain types of questions of a given reading passage. The second point then, which is when to scan, has so far become clearer. We scan to look for a specific piece of information, not to understand everything. Finally, how to start scanning to find what you want. First, there should be a key element in your mind from the asked question, like a number, a year, a certain word, or a phrase that represents the answer, or around which the answer can be found. Second, we start by moving our eyes quickly reading through the passage until we come to the piece of detail we are looking for. When we read quickly here, we don't need to read everything because reading every single word will slow down your scanning. We skip many words like articles, pronouns, and auxiliaries, words that do not convey meaning or are not essential to the whole sentence meaning. The rate of the scanning speed depends on the piece of information or detail you are asked about. Therefore, if you are asked about a number or a year, you may move your eyes in a very fast way and find the detail in a very short time, maybe 3 to 4 seconds. And if you are asked about a name or a certain phrase, your scanning speed may become less because you need more concentration to find that name or phrase. Moreover, if you are asked to find 3 reasons that cause something, for instance, and these reasons are scattered here and there in the passage, the rate of your scanning speed will become less and less fast. Then how intensive or how fast your scanning is can be determined by the type of the questioned detail. All in all, I would like to say that practicing scanning makes you more focused and faster readers. Let's go back to our question, which we have delayed until now, until the strategy of scanning is made clear. The question which appears to you is, give an example of a physiological change that may result from positive stress. We first determine the key element in the question. In this question, we notice the word physiological, or we consider the whole phrase physiological change as a key phrase. Are we supposed to scan the whole passage for this question? Of course not, because the question specifies one type of stress, which is positive stress. Thus, we don't need to scan every paragraph. We only scan the second paragraph about positive stress. Let's scan the paragraph and get the answer. We move our eyes reading quickly through the paragraph until we reach the line which contains the detailed physiological changes, and then continue to have 2 examples that represent physiological changes, an increase in heart rate and changes in hormone levels. By doing this, we come to the answer using the strategy of scanning. Notice here, we haven't scanned all the passage. We have just scanned one paragraph because the location to be scanned has already been determined by the question itself. This is not the case all the times. Sometimes we may need to scan the whole passage to find a certain detail. So far, the scanning strategy has been shown and illustrated. In the next lesson, we'll practice scanning more and more by answering a number of questions. See you then.